Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger, and this is my 10 essential tips for Dead or Alive 6. So let's just get started right to start here. The first tip here is just about the stun system. Stun system is kind of the core of what everything Dead or Alive is versus other 3D fighters. So there are two kinds of stun. There is critical stun, as you can see here, that's kind of delineated by the white. And there is fatal stun, that is orange. Now, let's talk about the first one here, that critical stun. This is what's going to be happening, I'd say, most of the time in the game, and it's how you're going to build your offense. So when someone is in critical stun, they have completely lost control of their character. The only way they have to defend themselves once they're in critical stun is they are allowed to use the hold system, the counter system. So every time they're in critical stun, they can't do anything other than a counter move. Now, when we are going to make a combo of any kind of sort here, once we have them in critical stun, as we can see here, then we can just kind of add hits. So a standard jab here, as you can see here, a jab obviously does not cause quite a lot of stun here, but once they're already in critical stun, a jab causes a lot of stun, so they have lost control of their character for a fair bit. And the idea of the critical stun is, effectively, you're just trying to milk a little bit of damage before you go into your launcher and into a combo. So that's a basic combo example right there. So now one thing to note here that's also very important about critical stun is the launch height. So that same combo we just did here, as you can see here, we're not going to be able to launch quite as high as we did before. If we go end with that command grab we ended the combo with, we're just straight up going to miss. So when you launch someone in critical stun, the launcher is going to be a lot higher than normal. So if you're looking for specific combos and in specific ways, you are, for the most part, generally going to have to guarantee the enemies in critical stun. And then, more to the point, launchers are, for the most part, fairly slow moves. So you're going to want to extend that stun to make sure it lasts a fair bit before you get your launcher off. Now, as stated earlier, the enemy is allowed to hold out of critical stun, so they're allowed a chance to counter out. So you cannot be predictable in this. So if you go for the same routine every single time, they're going to get you, you're going to take some damage, and you've lost all your momentum. So it is very important to mix up between highs, lows, mid punches, and mid kicks while you're doing this. Now, we did mention there are two kinds of stun. The second kind of stun is the fatal stun. So the big difference between fatal stun and critical stun, for the most part, fatal stun is just basically always better. One, they will not have an opportunity to counter out. The only way you can counter while you are in fatal stun is to use your break hold, which is your back and your S button, and that is a counter that takes half of your super bar. And it will counter all high, mids, and lows, but not really do any much in the way of damage. It's mostly to get you out of a bad position. So while you're in fatal stun, you're allowed to do that and nothing else. You are not allowed to do a regular counter, and if you don't have half a bar, then you just have to take what damage is coming to you. Now, every character can produce a fatal stun. At the very least, all auto combos, so that is just like S, smashing S over and over and over, all auto combos can produce fatal stuns on the first hit, so you don't even have to go into the whole thing. Some characters can also, with specific commands, force fatal stuns on their own. So for Tina, as our example here, it's just as simple as up and punch. And once we have them there, we can go right into a launcher. There's no fuss, no muss. If the only way out they have is to use the break hold, and if they don't have the requisite amount of super bar, then they just have to take the combo. So between critical stun and fatal stun, these two are kind of the heart of the offense of Dead or Alive. You want to get enemies into stuns so you can do your combos, and you don't want to be predictable, because as soon as you're predictable, the enemy can read you and counter out accordingly. Now, kind of as a direct follow-up to our last tip, when you are in critical stun or in fatal stun, please fight the urge to just go crazy on your counters, go crazy on the hold system, as that is generally not going to work in your favor. I'm going to tell you right now, and I know it's not a fun thing to say, but sometimes it's just best to take the hit. So one thing to note here, when you are doing the holds, the counters, when you do them normally, under no other duress, you're fine, right? When you do them out of critical stun, the recovery is much longer than if you do them raw. So the enemy can just as easily see you do it. Oh, he did it, and then punish that, right? So it is very much on the offensive player's advantage for you to spam these counters, because they can just wait a split second and then wait for it, and like, okay, now that he whiffed it, now I can do something that he can't possibly get out of because he just burned his turn getting out of it here, you know? Just seeing that whiff is like, okay, Now I can go directly into a launch, or I can throw you for free, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The more you just go crazy on these while you're in critical stun, the more you are letting the offensive player just kind of dictate the game plan. Sometimes it's just best to wait. Because say if a player is just like doing this and they're just, then they anticipate you countering and they go for the throw and you manage to hold your cool and not do anything, then hey, you're good to go. And once again too, if they're just waiting on you to whiff the counter and then go for like another big follow-up, if you just hold your cool, you'll fall out of the critical stun and then you've returned the neutral, and the person trying to bait out that counter has basically given up their turn on offense, right? So yes, you can reverse the fortunes by countering out during critical stun, and you should do it when you have a strong feeling you know what's coming next. But don't just do it for the sake of doing it, as it's definitely going to get you beat up in the end. So now we just had a section about talking about how, please, please, please don't spam holds while you're in critical stun. Now, there's going to be the people who don't listen to this video, and how do you punish this best? Well, once they're in critical stun and they try to hold out, if you just wait and let them, mash it out, like you can basically just see it and get like a free launcher and just kind of punch from there. Oh, we saw it happen. Great. Now we can do something else. We can visually confirm the whiff of it, because once again it has increased recovery when you do it out of critical stun, and we can go from there. Also, with part of the triangle system, if you watch the beginner's guide, you'll know that throws generally beat holds. So you'll get a lot extra damage out of a throw if you get them while holding. So we're going to do this, let them try to counter, and then we're going to go for a big throw. So enough damage for you? Obviously this is a more edge case situation, and it's a character that's much more well suited to doing this. But it kind of says it all. If you're just waiting and waiting for that person just to mash that high hold, especially if you have decent grapples on you, characters with grapples can really mess over someone who wants to just spam over and over and over. Even the basic stuff here, like basic throw, does fairly substantial damage off getting a defensive hold countered. Alright, so now I want to make a point on character weights, because character weights do matter. It affects how high you can launch people during a combo. So at the very beginning of the video, I showed you a fairly standard basic combo here. And see here, it just whiffs. Why does it whiff? Because Bayman is a heavier character than Zack, the person we tried at the very beginning of the video. So characters who are heavier cannot be launched quite as high. So a heavy character would be someone like Bayman or Bass. A character who's light would be someone like Nico or Marie Rose, and kind of all points in between. Like a Hayabusa or Hayate would be a middleweight. And you can kind of get a good gauge just by the character's look. If they're small and tiny, they're going to be a lightweight, and if they're a big dude, for the most part, the big dudes are the heavy characters. They won't be able to be juggled as high. It's effectively a character health system, if you want to put it that way. Like if I just kick them, it's going to do the same damage it does to everybody else, right? It doesn't really matter. But when a lot of the damage in this game comes from combos, since you can't launch heavy characters as high, it effectively means, for lack of a better term, they have a little bit more health than other characters. Now, the weight doesn't affect all things combo-wise, so anything with like a ground bounce or a bound, as we call them, it'll be just fine. So something like this here, that bounce is universal. A heavy character will bounce just the same as a light character will bounce. So that stuff's universal, you don't got to worry about that. But just keep in mind there that heavier characters cannot be launched as high in combos. Now, this is a tip I mentioned in the beginner's guide, but just to really stress the point home, really pay attention to what stage you're on, because it matters a lot. So right now we're in a dingy old underground ship here. Seems alright. The one thing you might not notice off the bat is this. Hey, there's a ceiling above us. And why does the ceiling matter? Well, the reason why the ceiling matters is because Bass can use the ceiling as a move. Some characters, if the ceiling is fairly low, they can actually knock you into the ceiling for additional damage, and they can have whole new moves, whole new combo structures, and all sorts of stuff just based off the ceiling alone. And obviously just stuff like Bass's basic throw. This is his basic throw, and now here's the basic throw against the wall. And not only did it do more damage because it caused an explosion, that kind of stuff, certain parts, certain stages can expand on top of being additional combo stuff. just by getting hit into it. So now we have a whole new part of the stage opened up just because we hit Hanoka into this very specific part of the wall. So characters have specific wall throws, specific wall combos, specific ceiling wall combos. Some characters have moves they can do to you while you're in the water. The stage matters so much, your positioning matters so much, and you really have to play to every aspect of every stage. Most stages have at least one unique gimmick to them, be it, a danger zone where you take additional damage if you get hit into it, stage expansions, as you saw here, ceilings that certain characters can take advantage of. The stage is so important, and you really gotta play it into your game, because just something like this, that's free extra damage you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and it makes a move like that a lot more attractive to do. So I'll show you one more example here of playing to the stage here. So using Bass's back throw, I know this is going to bounce, therefore I can get a lot of extra damage, as you can see here. That's a little bit over half health. And I knew that because the way I aimed that, I knew I was going to launch into the bounce zone, and I can get a follow-up from there. So playing to the stage is super key. So one thing you may have noticed while you're hitting the enemy is their life bar flashing a little bit here. So right here, you can see there's a bit of a red flash, and it doesn't go across the whole bar. So what does that mean? Well, basically, that is the damage you're allowed to do, that flashing bit of red health, before the enemy falls out of the critical stun. So if I attempt to go over this damage, what's going to happen is they're simply going to fall out. So that normally does not knock down. The stand kick does not knock down at all. But since we have gone over the red health allowance, the combo can just basically no longer continue. So it basically serves as a function so you can't milk critical stun forever. Like say the enemy just can't catch on to your rhythm, right? You make them guess wrong over and over. So this basically prevents you from just milking it ad nauseum, right? It also serves just kind of as a bit of a reminder, like I only get so many hits before I should go for my launcher. So that is just kind of a warning, if you will. Like, okay, they're going to fall out soon. So if that red health is flashing and it's near the end, either, wait and try to bait out a hold, or this is now time to go for your launcher attempt. Now, another very important part of Dead or Alive, and it's a little bit different from other 3D fighting games, is the wake up kick. So if the enemy is down on the ground, they can choose, if they so wish, to wake up with an attack, and the attack is invincible. So this is kind of like a wake up Shoryuken, or say something like that in other fighting games. So this wake up attack, you can't just attack through it. So if I'm just like, just trying to attack, it's not going to work, right? The enemy can choose to either wake up with a medium kick or a low kick by hitting down a kick. So just so you know, you can totally counter these. This is not a big deal. But you do have to respect it. So if they wake up with a kick and you're just trying to do this, that, and the other, they are going to beat you out. Now, besides just being able to counter it, another thing to note is they will lose to attacks that are specifically designated to hit people on the ground. So while they're in the startup of the move, that will beat them out. So say they're just kind of trying to play possum with the wake up kick, knowing it's invincible. Keep in mind, once again, any attack that's designated to hit people while they're grounded, the invincibility won't really save them in that regard, as you'll be able to smack them just the same as you ever were. So don't wait too long, because once they're already standing up and kicking, you've lost the opportunity to get the grounded attack. So they still have to be on the ground when you're starting it. But still, it's a thing to keep in mind. It is just another layer on the defense of Dead or Alive 6. So once again, you can freely counter them. The kicks are always going to be mids or lows. And you can also do your downed opponent attacks to beat them before they can get it going. Now, just to keep in mind, some people have wake-up attacks that are not just the kicks. The kicks are universal. Everyone has them. But certain characters have their own flair on it. Tina, if she is on her stomach, head towards the enemy, can wake up with a tackle, for example. And there's quite a few more examples of that. But for the most part, the wake-up kicks are the more universal option, so that's the one you got to watch out for. One thing to tell you that's probably going to save you a lot of heartache in the future is if you hit the guard input here, the hold button, if you hit that during a string or whatever buttons you're hitting, what it's going to do is basically clear out the buffer of inputs. So say I want to do something like this. I want to go forward, forward, punch, punch, another punch, punch, and then into my launcher. If I hit punch, punch, and then go for my launcher a little too quick, I'm going to get stuff like that, right? Because because that is a continuation of the string, the punch punch string. So if I hit the guard button right after I hit punch punch and then go for my launcher, I'm going to have no issues on my inputs whatsoever. As you can see there, no problem, didn't get any erroneous inputs, which can sometimes happen during this situation. If you enter a bit too fast, it'll count as part of the string. But if you do that, as you can see here, no fuss, no muss. I just get the inputs I want. So if you are a little overzealous in hitting your buttons, don't be afraid just to hit the guard button, as it'll cancel out any additional buffer input stuff. It'll just basically kill the string dead, and then you can go exactly for what you want for your combos. So let's talk about throw break. So in Dead or Alive, you cannot break every single throw. You are allowed to break multi-part throws and regular throws. So we're going to set the enemy here. They're just going to spam regular throw over and over and over here. So just spam a regular old throw. And if we, let's see, a Death Valley Driver, we didn't tech in time. If we just hit throw when we notice ourselves getting throw, it's really simple as that, right? And the tech window for basic throws is pretty generous, although it can't be too sloppy. The one thing about basic throws in this game, which gives them a lot of value, even though they can be teched, is they're absolutely always the fastest throws in the game. So they're going to be anywhere from like 5, to sometimes like 15 frames faster than other throws. Sometimes it can be 2 frames faster. It doesn't really matter. Just no matter what, the basic throw will always be the fastest throw. Now we also have the multi-part throws. So if we have here, we'll set our recording off here. So Tina is now going to do her multi-part throw. And you see here, there's 2 inputs there. So we have 2 chances to break it. So say we didn't break it there, but we broke it on the second one. Once again, all we had to do is hit throw. All we have to do is hit throw before the enemy does. So if they're a little bit slow, then they won't get the whole damage off the move. So right there, we teched incorrectly, and so we got smacked. Multi-part throws, for the most part, do more damage than regular throws. So basically the risk reward is, will you get more damage if you correctly beat out the enemy? So in this situation, it's literally who hits the button first. So just to show you one more example here of throw breaks. So Mila, her backhand throw puts into a side mount style MMA position move. So from there, she can either go for an armbar throw, or she can go for multiple knee strikes. As you can see here. So the enemy, just the same, has an option to tech out. So we'll set it here. The enemy will try to escape throws, and we'll say we'll do it slow for the sake of this. So much the same here. It's just who enters first. So if we enter our throw input first there, we will get our throw off successfully. But if we're a bit slow, the enemy will get out. So when it comes to situations like this where it's a multi-level throw, it's literally who's sharper on the draw. Our final tip will be on offensive hold. So what is an offensive hold? Well, if we go to the command list here and we look at throws, you see some of these throws here say OH. That means offensive hold. And what an offensive hold is, basically long story short, is it is a throw designed to be attacks. So if you did watch the video on the beginner's guide, you will know that for the most part, attacks totally crush throws. Even if you're like a single frame into your attack, you will not be able to throw someone. That kind of mitigates the fact that there's not normal throw teching, as you can only tech basic throws. But you can basically pre-tech a throw just by hitting a button. If you hit any button, throw can't hit you. With offensive holds, that is not the case. An offensive hold is usually a bit slower than a regular throw, but it can absolutely beat attacks. So offensive holds are not given to every single character in the game. They're generally given to characters that prefer grapples. They don't have to be pure grappler characters, but they are characters that kind of focus a bit more on grappling than other characters. And these are styles of attacks that can totally just blow through regular attacks, whereas regular throws absolutely cannot. So if you're in a situation where you are advantaged on block, say after a move gets blocked or the enemy's getting up, and you want to go for a throw, but you know if you go for a regular style throw, if they hit any button, you're automatically going to lose. This is where the offensive hold really comes into play, as if they wake up with buttons, the offensive hold will absolutely be able to beat them, and you can go forward from there. So it's a very important part of pressure, because once again, these are, for the most part, much slower than regular throws, as you can see here. So if you just dilly-dally, you can still get hit out of it. It won't stop you from getting hit out of the throw, but it will be able to beat a strike on its startup frames, unlike a regular throw can. So I hope these 10 essential tips will help you out in your gameplay for Dead or Alive 6. Anyways, that's the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Dead or Alive.
This is the love we